Yo, what's up, guys? We're back with another video today. And guys, listen, guys, okay? So obviously, we have a lot of UFC events coming up, right? Like UFC 314, UFC 315. I don't even know what's going to be on 316. They're saying it's going to be O'Malley versus Merab 2. If it is what it is, you know, I think that's alright, whatever. But with all these fights being made, there's been a lot of big matchups that have kind of gone under the radar. Like some of these that I'm going to include on this video, they're talked about, but they're not really like, there's not as much hype as I think that they should be, and like how important these fights are. And so I've gathered 5 of these fights that are coming up shortly, and so I've gathered 5 underrated fights that I think that need to be talked about a bit more. So, without further ado, let's get right into them. Alright, now the first fight that we have here is actually going to be happening this weekend. Leon Edwards versus Sean Brady. Now, when this event and Leon's first original opponent was supposed to be JDM, there was a lot more hype towards it because well, it's JDM, and let's be real, I think JDM's probably more exciting and more well-known than Sean Brady is, which is crazy because Sean Brady's a top 5 opponent in the division, to be honest. So, and he beat Gilbert Burns in his last fight, but I can kind of see why people aren't really keeping an eye on him that much, because his last couple fights weren't that exciting. He did beat Gilbert Burns, but it wasn't it was a complete domination, and it wasn't exciting, I will admit. And then he had a very boring fight against Calvin Gastelum, in my opinion. So he's not been that well popular to a lot of fans in the division, in my opinion. But with this fight, though, this is still a pretty important fight. We have to remember, Leon Edwards was the previous champion. So if Sean Brady were to beat Leon Edwards, right? Let's say Sean Brady beats Leon Edwards. He could potentially skip Shavkat to fight for the title. I know that's not going to happen because Shavkat's a bigger name than Sean Brady is, but still, Sean Brady beat Leon Edwards, the number 1 contender in the division. And for Leon Edwards, if Leon Edwards looks good in this fight against a grappler, mind you, Sean Brady is a grappler. I would say Brady is more of a wrestler than a grappler, but he's very similar to more Bilal Muhammad. And if Leon Edwards were to beat Sean Brady, that could really help him rematch Bilal Muhammad if he does beat JDM, which I don't know how it's going to go. I'm still thinking whether Bilal beats JDM or not. I'm slightly leaning towards Bilal now because he is more of a wrestler, but I digress. What I'm getting at is, for both of these guys, beating one or the other is really important. This is a break or make moment for both of these guys, in my opinion, honestly. Because if Leon wins, like I said before, that's a great performance against a wrestler, similar to how Bilal Muhammad is a wrestler as well. And if Leon can actually get through Sean Brady, he could potentially immediately get a title shot after that. I don't think that's going to happen, but you never know. You know, the UFC, they gave Khalil Roundtree a title shot against Alex Pereira. Come on now. All right, now this next fight that we have Jim Miller versus Chase Hooper, a.k.a. Charles Oliveira 2.0. This is literally Charles Oliveira 2.0, bro. Let me give my reasonings for this one, right? So, Chase Hooper, when he was in flyweight, he wasn't really that great. He was mid, to be quite honest with you. But then when he got up to lightweight, he became Chase Hooper, the destroyer, man. This dude literally went on a tear, and he still is. And honestly, if he can get through Jim Miller, because in my opinion, Jim Miller is a tough dude to be in the unranked division. This dude is a crafty vet. Yes, he's almost 42 years old, but the dude can still whoop ass like it's no big deal. He's beaten so many young contenders coming up, and yes, are they great? No, but they are young contenders, they are young dudes, and Jim Miller's beating them up in his 40s. And for Chase Hooper, to get through Jim Miller, that could honestly get him an opportunity to fight someone in the rankings, to be honest, because Jim Miller did recently fought in the rankings against Bobby Green. I know Bobby Green's not in the rankings now, but you get what I mean, right? What I'm getting at is, this is actually kind of a sleeper fight right here, because I'm leaning towards Jim Miller being Chase Hooper, if I'm going to be straight up honest with you, because I think Jim Miller is a good wrestler. I'm not saying Chase Hooper is not going to win this. It's very close, don't get me wrong. And I would not be surprised at all if Chase Hooper wins. My opinion may change on this fight, obviously, because this is early predictions right now. But again, what I'm getting at is, if Chase Hooper can get through Jim Miller, that's a big win for his career. And he could, if he looks really good against Jim Miller, I will say that this kid is a dangerous fighter in the lightweight division. Alright, now the next fights that we have is Rainier Day Ryder versus Bo Nickel. Now, this one I have a lot of vendetta against, right? Because I can't stand Bo Nickel. Bo Nickel is one of the most overrated dudes ever in like the middleweight division, if not in the UFC. The amount of hype that this dude gets is ridiculous. Is he a good wrestler? Yes, he is a good wrestler, but you just can't be good from your wrestling. The days of you being a one-trick pony are gone. Honestly, unless you're Khamzat Chimaev, because Khamzat Chimaev is just a wrestler. He will destroy anyone outside of that. But Bo Nickel, in my opinion, he's not on the same scale. He doesn't take down people immediately and submits them, right? And sometimes he's not even able to get people down. Like, remember against Cody Brundage? He tried to take him down, and Cody Brundage was able to push him off. And, like, when you look at his opponent against RDR, for first off, in his last 2 fights, he's had better wins, in my opinion, than Bo Nickel's entire UFC career. And Bo Nickel has more fights in the UFC. In RDR's last 2 fights in the UFC, mind you, his only 2 fights in the UFC, he has better performances against Bo Nickel. He has beaten guys like Gerald Meerschaert, who is a pretty good grappler, and he was able to submit him, mind you. And then he also submitted Kevin Holland as well. And Kevin Holland, you know, he's not really the best now, I will say, but Kevin Holland is like miles better than the guys that Bo Nickel's being. Like, come on now. And also, I'm on the RDR train. Am I a little bit biased? Yeah, I am a little bit. I'm an RDR fan. He's literally Dricus du Plessis, he's literally Dricus du Plessis 2.0. This dude is so goofy. He fights so weird. He gasses out after like 5 seconds. Now, will I be surprised if Bo Nickel gets past RDR? Yes, I actually think so, because I don't think Bo Nickel is that good. I legitimately don't think he's going to be a ranked opponent. Like, okay, maybe he will be in a couple of years, but not right now. He's only has like 7 fights in his whole career. And I remember he said the reason why he's like so inactive is because he's like taking all this like off season, like off camp, to like work on his MMA skills, which I guess is somewhat fair because he does have only like 7 fights. But still, I just don't think he can like surpass a guy like RDR who's had like probably like more than a decade of MMA experience, right? It's just too much. It's just too much in my opinion. Do I think Bo Nickel can take down RDR? I think there is a good chance he can do that because he is a really good wrestler. But I don't think that he will want to stay on the ground with RDR because he will submit him. I genuinely think so. And to be quite honest, I think a lot of people are going to be surprised that Bo Nickel loses to RDR. I'm going to be straight up honest with you. All right, now the next fight that we have on here is Corey Sandhagen versus Deiveson Figueiredo. This one is a little bit pushing it because this is a main event and it's against 2 guys who have very big names in like their divisions. But I'm just not seeing the hype it's getting. This should be like an extremely anticipated fight. I should see a lot more people talking about this fight because this could potentially be fight of the year right here. You have Corey Sandhagen, who in his last couple fights haven't been the most exciting, but he's still a really entertaining guy. I just think that he needs the right opponents. Like, I think that if he doesn't do the wrestling, which I don't think he's going to, I don't know why you would want to wrestle with Deiveson Figueiredo. Deiveson's actually a good wrestler, mind you. I think Corey's best chance to win this fight is to strike with Deiveson Figueiredo. And again, this is just an absolute banger of a fight right here. You have 2 of the most, really well thought out, fighters, strikers overall. They're just really exciting fighters on both of these guys, in my opinion. And you have them go up against each other, it's a really good fight, honestly. Again, this is another close one, but I'm kind of leaning towards Deiveson Figueiredo. Yes, he basically got 50-45 against Peter Yan, but that's Peter Yan we're talking about right now. I think Deiveson could potentially beat Corey Sandhagen because, for one, he has the power. His wrestling and jiu-jitsu is a little bit better, in my opinion, than Corey Sandhagen's. And I think that he can do better in a 5-rounder than Corey Sandhagen can, in my opinion. And honestly, I don't know why this isn't getting talked about as much. I feel it because this is such a good fight right here. All right, now the final fight that we have on here is Gilbert Burns versus Michael Morales. This one's very interesting, in my opinion, because as you guys know, I don't talk about it as much right now, but I'm a big Gilbert Burns fan, guys, right? I really like Gilbert Burns. He was one of the first guys that, I really got into in MMA. And, it's been rough to see him lose in his past, 3 fights, man. It's been rough. And, this is, a make or break for him. If he loses this fight, I think he might low-key retire. Or it'll go down to Tony Ferguson route, where he'll just, his days of being a top-ranked contender in the welterweight division are over. I think they're over now, but it'll be really over if he loses to Michael Morales. And for Michael Morales, if he beats Gilbert Burns, he can potentially become a top-ranked contender. Because Gilbert Burns, even though he's on a 3-fight losing streak, I still think being Gilbert Burns is an incredible performance to do. Because Gilbert Burns, in my opinion, is still a decent fighter in the welterweight division. This is just one of those matchups where it's like the new up-and-coming contender comes against the old veteran who's well experienced in like the UFC, right? And also, this one doesn't matter as much, but also, if Gilbert Burns were to beat Michael Morales, that's another undefeated fighter losing. And as of this year, I think there's been like I can't even remember. I think there's been like 10 or like 8 UFC fighters who were undefeated who are no longer undefeated. I know there was Payne Talba, Umar, Shara, like those are the big names I can think of, but the undefeated fighters in 2025 have not been doing good at all, and Michael Morales is another undefeated fighter, and Gilbert Burns could potentially like take away his O and making him lose his first fight. I don't know how it's going to go. I really don't know. I need to think more on this fight. I am slightly leaning towards Michael Morales, as much as it hurts as I'm a Gilbert Burns fan, but I think that there is a chance Gilbert Burns could win this. You never know. You never know. But guys, that is me covering some of the most overlooked up-and-coming matchups in UFC right now. Let me know what you guys thought about this video. Did I leave out any other up-and-coming fights that haven't been talked about? If so, drop it in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Peace!